My beautiful, beautiful, beautiful star family, here we go. Another live reading. I've been really looking forward to diving into this again because it just was such an incredible experience the last time that we got to do an entire live reading together of Voyagers 2. And I feel like it's really important for us to actually go back and go ahead and kind of complete the set by reading through Voyagers 1. So as we go through this today, we're just going to be starting, and I will be most definitely uh, updating as far as when we will be doing these live reads, but I just want to uh, share this experience with you guys today. So let me just get a few housekeeping things going here as I get this going. All right, perfect. So here we go. We are live. And so just to kind of recap again, today we are starting the Voyagers 1, The Sleeping Abductees, live read through. There are about 8 chapters we're going to go through within this live reading. So I'm really excited to get to kind of continue this journey with you. A bit earlier, and you can catch this on the YouTube channel. So if you kind of just scroll through there, if you are interested, there is already a live read that we did together for Voyagers 2, which was The Secrets of a Mentee. And it's just really been tugging at the heart for me to come on and actually complete the series by going ahead and reading together with you Voyagers 1. So really kind of where it all started. This is really where this Voyagers materials, chelantic sciences, and everything it's evolved into since then has kind of originated through here. And this, I think, is going to take us into a bit of a deeper understanding of some of the things that we're dealing with here on the planet. I do invite each and every one of you to really shield up when you listen to this information because it can be very triggering. A lot of times hearing these types of things, even though this material is a bit older, and there's a lot of concepts that you're going to hear that it was Anna Hayes at the time that she wrote it, and then her second volume, you'll see her name, Ashiana Dean, on there, and now currently she's going by Ayasha Ashiana Dean. Just kind of what we would see as evolutions of kind of integrating different levels of consciousness as she's progressed with this work is, I think, what we would see with that. But we're going to see that at that time, this was like 1998, 99, where there was still a level of trying to find ways to talk about extraterrestrial types of things, UFOs, even wanting to find ways to be able to legitimately talk about some of the controllers and the systems on our planet without being made out to be crazy, right? So you're going to see that a little bit in the verbiage. As I was going back and kind of recapping on some of it, I was going like, wow, yeah, how far we've come really in about 26 years from having to really validate so much. Now there's just such an acceleration of our consciousness that there's just a hunger for those of you that are awakening to know more. And there's a definite sense of like, well, it's just all around us. It's like it has become much more of a casual conversation or something that there's a lot more understanding or knowing with it. So with so much love, I welcome all of you. Becca B here. I am so honored to get to share this live read with you here through the Soul-Based Life platform, really encouraging us all to live a soul-based life. Please know that I'm going to do these readings pretty progressively and pretty quickly. So if you want to catch when some of the next lives are coming, I will be posting, as well as possible on the YouTube, on the Telegram platform, so on and so forth when they're going. But one of the greatest ways too is just to connect on withbecca.com. So that's the website, www.withbecca.com. On there, there's an events link. It's your way to find out all information about course platforms, membership groups, catching on some of the Q&A lives, or any of the other live events. If you really want to dive in into living the soul-based life, there's so many different things that we're constantly doing there in order to support that, and these live readings just being one of it. So with that, I want to just go ahead and dive right in. I just quickly want to say so much love to everyone that's already joining in live today. And just so much love to Ben and Robin, Sarah, so happy to have you here, Chromatic. Uh, so much love to you guys as we join in, and I will continuously pop in just to say hello as we get going. But as with these live reads, there's a lot that we're going to go through. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. So here we are. This is again Voyagers, the Sleeping Abductees. This is volume 1 of the Emerald Covenant CDT plate transmissions. This again, I have a copy of her second edition here that I'm going to be reading from, to where you'll see her name, Ashiana Dean, on here. So as we get to look at this, this is the original. This was the first publication of this materials before the Voyagers 2 came out. And if you have dove into the Voyagers 2 materials already, you're going to see that Voyagers 2 just poof went right into it, right? It went just deep into our histories of Earth, who we are, all the different races. And so now we're going to look at it from the perspective of Voyagers Volume 1, kind of looking at it from the perspective of who are some of the influences that are here, affecting not only our planet, but our solar system. We're going to look at some of the information as to time, moving through time dimensions. We live in a 15-dimensional time matrix. What does that mean? What does it mean to move through parallel realities? And who are some of the beings that have the technologies developed enough to move between some of these interdimensional planes in order to influence or affect us from past timelines, future timelines, parallel timelines? And what does that mean, especially when we look at our potential? Our highest timeline potential is a term we use a lot, and the highest timeline potential means that we are operating with the perspective and the trajectory aligned to the timeline that we are intending, creating, or choosing to move into, right? And so when we operate from a trajectory of locking into highest probable timelines, what it does, in very short, is it actually starts to help us make choices, actions, thoughts, and emanate frequencies from our levels of consciousness that begin to shut down the other probabilities that are not our highest timelines that we would want to move towards. If we could understand this on a deeper level, it would really take the power out of the controller forces. They do utilize technologies that are quite advanced, but at the same time, they're utilizing technologies in order to access this realm, and then they have to convince us. So we're going to be looking at what is some of these convincing tactics that they use. And if we could remember that we are the creator force, what we intend, what we think, what we emote, and what we put into creation is really putting the creator capabilities back in our hands. And if we can start to understand how others have been coercing how we create, we will start to become the sovereigns to start to create the highest probable timelines. So with that, let's go ahead and look at some of these chapters within here. And I'm not going to read the full intro in here. Please know, if you want to reach out for ways to get this PDF, this book, it is available. I'll be putting the links in how you can get it. So here we're going to come to the table of contents. Please just know that if you do download or order, it didn't come with page numbers. I actually added those so that we could have a little better reference. and know where we're going. So just know in the introduction, she's just going into the details of setting up some of the information about where the information came from, who is the Azurite Temple, what is the Azurite Temple of the Melchizedek Cloister Order, who was Ashyan-Adin, who is Ayashadin, will be in further different things, but about the author. What are the CDT plates, the Emerald Covenant, and the Mass Drama? Who are the administrative levels of the Emerald Order Melchizedek Cloister? I'll probably do a separate video on that just because it's kind of a neat topic all on its own to understand that. And we're going to go ahead and start from chapter 1. I just want to say the reason why I'm skipping through the first bits as we go through this book is all of that is actually intros that is standard in pretty much all of these Kilanta materials. So it's just the basic introduction materials kind of for every single document. So if you have one, you can go in there and read it. And we want to jump right into chapter 1 of the Sleeping Abductees of Voyagers 1. And we're just going to start right here. And we're going to be starting, if your book is numbered, it's page 65. Chapter 1, UFOs, Visitors, and the Interior Government. Investigating the UFO. We shall begin this discourse with the subject of UFOs, or unidentified flying objects. So just to say, this first bit is going to be a little bit kind of just going over things that we probably don't need to, but I want to add it just for the purpose of this book reading. Investigating the UFO. We shall begin this discourse with the subject of UFOs, or unidentified flying objects. We are referring here to those reported sightings of seemingly mechanical type vessels of transport that have no apparent terrestrial origin. In this category, we shall also place other airborne phenomena of related characteristics, but those which lack the elements of mechanical type vestiges. The later are usually described as light formations, reportedly witnessed both at close range and great distances. Both types of UFOs have at times appeared in radar tracking, as well as having many eyewitness reports of sightings or encounters with such yet unexplained phenomena. Photographs and film have at times captured images of both types of UFO presence. In attempting to explain the origins of such phenomena, it is necessary to broach the issue of human physics. Some understanding of the nature of time, matter, and perception is required if sense is to be made of these events. In regard to the solid object UFOs, often witnessed and documented, suffice it to say that these objects are existing at the time of encounter within the range of perception of three-dimensionality. That is, that these objects are functioning within the same time-space continuum as other objects within the Earth's objectively perceivable and measurable reality. So, as our first point of interest, we shall say that any such three-dimensionally perceivable UFO is, at the point of encounter, functioning within the laws and mechanics of physics as your culture presently understands them. Having determined this obvious fact of corresponding time-space sequence, the next question to address is that the origin of the object being perceived, the question of what is it, is directly related to the issue of where it came from. For you cannot answer one question without answering the other. If you desire to elicit intelligent answers as to the nature of this phenomena, it is necessary to ask intelligent questions. In order to ask intelligent questions, it's necessary that you expand the framework of reference out of which these questions are drawn. Official investigation into the nature of three-dimensional mechanical type UFO events centers around explaining these phenomena using the current premise of scientific thought. The core assumption or root belief within the scientific dictum is that the objectified Earth field of three-dimensional reality is the only real reality that exists. Phenomena must be explained within this terrestrial-based scope of perception. Underlining an And interwoven within this core assumption are the ideas that the human species is the only real intelligent life form in the universe, and that the three-dimensional earth field of perceivable reality is the only real reality, and thus all things must be explained within the perceivable confines of that reality. In researching UFO phenomena, the officials tend to look for data and correlations that will prove their own theories and assumptions rather than investigating the phenomena as an active reality from which there is knowledge to gain. More effort is put into disproving the reality of phenomena than is applied to investigating what information the phenomena is presenting that will add to the understanding of how reality works. In regard to the three-dimensional mechanical UFO sightings, the first series of intelligent questions that should be asked involve how the object behaves in relation to the known laws of physics as they are presently understood. Does the object exhibit behavior consistent with these laws, or are there anomalies in its exhibited characteristics that seem to contradict or push beyond the scope of those laws as they are presently known? If more attention is paid to such questions, the phenomena themselves would lead researchers to add information to their present bank of laws. Time, space, and perception are intimately intertwined. Science and physics have already lent credence to the theory that time is not linear in nature as once thought. The mechanics of quantum physics present a solid argument for the curvature of time and the possibility of times, plural, coexisting in overlay formation, one sequence of events being superimposed over others and each functioning within their own coordinate pattern or frequency band. Within these theories are the realities that will give your science the ability to expand its framework of understanding enough to begin to ask the right questions in regard to three-dimensional UFOs. We are presenting this information to you because it's time for humanity to take its head out of the sand and face the realities that are everywhere presenting themselves. The appearance of three-dimensionally perceivable UFOs of the mechanical type should lead first to questions of whether or not the object behaves in accordance to known physical laws or whether it exhibits properties not consistent with laws of solid matter. Did it display erratic movement patterns or maneuvering abilities seemingly superior to those of known vessels of transport in the Earth system? When such events are encountered, it is usually assumed, if the sighting's reality is given any credibility at all, that the UFO must be a physical vessel of transport made of solid matter and possessing a mechanical technology advanced in comparison to our own. This is not always the case. So some three-dimensional mechanical type UFOs are indeed solid vessels. Some are quite terrestrial in nature and are born of the secret scientific societies that exist within the Earth's governmental structures. We call these covert constructions the interior government. In sightings involving this group, the government will not own up to its flying devices, as to do so would require revealing that it is in possession of technologies that are superior to what it has led the public and general scientific communities to believe. It is easier to allow such sightings to fall between the cracks and join the ranks of other UFO sightings or unexplained phenomena, rather than to incite individuals to begin asking the right questions. I'm going to take just one pause really quick because it's really important, in how they're explaining this to us. And please understand that this is Ashiana Dean really having a conversation with the Guardians, and the Guardians are really the ones explaining everything through the Voyagers books. And they're really trying to, within a very loving and a very nice way, tell us, please wake up. Most all of the craft that we are seeing flying in our skies, and especially leading up to now in 2024, are primarily a lot of what they are referring to as interior government vessels, or vessels actually constructed here in the Earth plane because of the advanced technologies that we've had but have not had revealed to us. And I think this is what a lot of the disclosure is that is coming. So Within this, there is the great understanding that they're giving us to remember that questions are key, that rather than just go along with something or just throw something out because, oh, it doesn't make sense, that answers are come from these questions that we ask. And if we learn to have the right questions, that the questions are what are going to open up the doors. The questions are what are going to bring our libraries of truth back to us. So within this, they continue on. Much is being withheld globally by such government underground, including many developments concerning your own technologies as well. Your sciences and physics are far more advanced than you have been led to believe, and this cover up of information has been consciously orchestrated, a deception emanating from the highest places within your governmental hierarchies. You have technologies and knowledge presently within your culture that could literally wipe out most of the maladies you experience on a global scale. That's a big statement to take in, right? One more time. You have technologies and knowledge presently within your culture that could literally wipe out most of the maladies you experience on a global scale. But this knowledge is being kept from you by segments of your own populace. The knowledge of the possession of the underground elite would literally disintegrate all the present cultural structures as you know them, from science to healthcare, economics, and religion. So do not expect the governments to own up even to their own witnessed UFOs unless they are hard pressed for an alternative program of disinformation. They will use whatever tactics necessary to squelch the expansion of the knowledge they hold. We will provide more information on the interior government in later writings. However, some three-dimensional mechanical UFOs are not simply covert developments of the technology elite. They are far more. Some such UFOs are indeed spaceships or vessels of transport belonging to other intelligent species within your galactic sector. Yes, you are being visited, watched, and studied by various other cultures of intelligent beings that you are not yet as a whole aware of. And yes, some of your UFO sightings involve solid matter vessels piloted by such life forms. Many of these visitors are indeed from outer space, as you would think of it, and some of these groups are in active workings with your interior government. But not all of your three-dimensional UFOs fit into these aforementioned categories. There is quite often much more to the UFO than meets the eye, as you will soon discover. Deciphering UFOs. Here we go. You must begin to realize the truths hidden within your mathematics and geometries, for in the mechanics of these sciences, the existence of multiple worlds, parallel Earths, and dimensions is indicated and will one day be proven as fact. That is so powerful. I wanted to take a pause there. And I also wanted to make a mental note that we could also ask the question, why is there such a block in so many of Earth's consciousness towards mathematics? Like sometimes you just think of numbers or math or these types of things, and a huge part of the conscious collective just has a dislike or a distaste or almost like a seal or a block towards mathematics or geometry, when it truly is one of the primary languages of our cosmic universe. And within here, again, saying the truths hidden within your mathematics and geometries. The truths are hidden where we have an aversion to look, is another way of looking at this. I want to just point that out because we are now really starting to, even those of us that didn't have a love for mathematics as a child, are starting to recognize the spirituality of that language. So there are, let's just, one more time, I want to just, because this is so important. You must begin to realize the truths hidden within your mathematics and geometries. For in the mechanics of these sciences, the existence of multiple worlds, parallel Earths, and dimensions is indicated and will one day be proven as fact. There are parallel Earth systems, and there are portals through time that link your world with others and with other versions of itself. Some of these other worlds or Earths have more advanced technologies than your own. Some know how to use time portal systems and explore your reality just as you might explore life upon another planet if you had the ability and the knowledge to do so. Many of your sightings of mechanical type and light formation type UFOs emanate from these other systems. At times, objects and people from these parallel systems interface briefly with your system, and they can appear in a variety of different forms. What you might see as a cigar-shaped object hovering in the sky in your reality may in actuality be a house, a car, or a weather pattern from a parallel dimension interfacing with your time-space coordinate accidentally. Such phenomena are not necessarily vessels or travel craft at all, but common objects from a parallel system that appear in different form as they interface with the electromagnetic frequency bands of your dimension. In your photographs, they may appear as disks or craft, but in such cases, that would be an illusion created by dimensional distortion. Not all disks or UFOs fit into this category either, but it will serve your research well if you are aware of this possible explanation, for many of your sightings are just this phenomena in action. Other disks and vessels are actual solid matter transport devices, but these will emanate from within your own dimensional system, either from human-related sources or from sources of an extraterrestrial nature. To further this point a bit, we will add that many of your naturally occurring biophysical phenomena, such as a ball of lightning, are also sightings of the interdimensional kind. Sightings so common that your scientists consider them part of the organic operations of planetary physics. So, like strange lightning phenomena and things like that. These common interdimensional phenomena, here she says, lightning, thunder, magnetic variations, etc., are actually the residual effect of action taking place within other dimensional fields. As you may now see when addressing the issue of UFOs, you are not dealing with events that have only one explanation. All of the proposed explanations do apply, but it's up to you to discover which one you are dealing with and in each case. For your information, the US government does possess three-dimensionally solid wreckage from various craft not of human manufacture. This wreckage has come from two primary places, and some of it is not wreckage at all. There have been vessels of transport from parallel dimensional systems that passed through the time and dimensional porter structures and emerged within your system. These craft are not equipped to deal with the magnetism as it exists within your dimension, and they most often crash or incinerate upon entry. There are 4 such wreckage fragments presently in the possession of the US government. 2 of these originate from systems parallel to your own, and 2 have come from third-dimensional systems outside of your Milky Way galaxy. I wanted to just put the term Procyon galaxy here because that's actually one of the primary terms or intergalactic terms for Milky Way galaxy. The wreckage of these 4 aforementioned vessels is the least of which your government is attempting to hide. There exist several hundred other vessels of advanced technology harbored by the US government alone, many more globally, but these were not the result of reconnaissance. The vessels and instrumentation we speak of were traded, presented as a gift from those whose culture created them, a culture your government has been aware of since 1926 and actively involved in negotiations with since 1934. Wake up, humans. If you continue to believe without question the information concerning UFOs and extraterrestrial life presented to you by your government and media, you will effectively render yourselves blind and powerless over the true reality within which your lives are couched. A reality that you need to be aware of before you allow yourself to fall victim to the disinformation that has been hand-fed to you for generations. If you think that your human species is alone and superior within the universe, you are in for a very rude awakening. Within the next 50 to 60 years of your time, the reality of which we speak will become painfully obvious to many of you, even to those who choose to keep their heads in the sand and pretend away the existence of extraterrestrial and multidimensional reality. Your awakening does not have to be painful, not if you are prepared, not if you are informed, as we seek to make available to you the information you will need in order to make a smooth transition into multi-level intergalactic consciousness, the next stage of growth upon the pathway of human evolution. So just one quick pause here because this is super important. I actually Linda Moulton Howe, I've mentioned her many times. I have such a love for her. She's in her 80s, I think 82 maybe, dedicated her entire life to seeking the truth and been researching this very stuff that we're talking about right now, UFOs, for for the majority of her life as a reporter. And it wasn't until literally maybe a week, 2 weeks ago, she did post some video that she did where she literally was saying, I'm going to share with you something I've never shared with anyone in my whole life. And I was kind of shocked, especially coming from someone who's literally been researching, talking about UFOs, going into governmental disclosures and all of these things, that she literally herself had been guarded for sharing one of her own extraterrestrial experiences that she had had around the age of 40, and that she had kept it secret all the way until like 82. She's all like, if I can't tell the truth now at 82, there's like no hope. And I hope this inspires others as we go through this reading. Now's the time, for us to reach out to individuals like Linda Moulton Howe, who's really gathering a lot of the resources and the data and sharing it out there to whomever you feel guided. If there has ever been something you've experienced, now's the time for us to really to be much more transparent with this information so that it doesn't keep being that ostrich or the head in the sand as they are referring to here. I think that's important because for things like negotiations in the governments have happened, say, from here saying in the 20s, that means our entire life. There's nobody alive that wouldn't have been born into a system that was already under negotiation from some of these beings. So let's move on here. Types of UFOs. The three-dimensional mechanical type UFOs we have discussed thus far can be placed into the following four categories. Those belonging to covert government operations who will maintain a policy of non-disclosure and denial regarding sightings of these crafts. Those representing interdimensional anomalies from parallel systems that appear as vessels but in actuality represent other phenomena as they appear when interfacing with your system. And then the other type being actual craft from other dimensions that emerge through the time and dimensional portal systems. Actual craft belonging to the human or extraterrestrial cultures that emerge through the time portal system from locations within the third dimensional universe. In all of these cases, the craft appear physically solid, some having material wreckage left behind as validation of their existence. There have been photographs, film, radar, eyewitness accounts of all such phenomena, though rarely are your sightings researchers able to make distinctions between these categories unless obvious visitor presence is indicated. There are other categories of UFOs related to these which need to be addressed. Quite often, there are reports of encounters with UFOs that do not have the characteristic physical vessel structures as mentioned above. Often, reports of paranormal activity also fall into this category. Frequently, sightings of this sort are dismissed as naturally occurring atmospheric anomalies or mental aberrations. We are referring here to the sightings and encounters of phenomena that appear as light form manifestations. There is a wide variety of such displays, ranging from simple flashes or sheets of light witnessed by both indoors and outdoors, to large appearances of spherical light forms, singularly or in group formation, that appear as three-dimensional energy forms. Often, when these are photographed, they appear as UFOs. though usually a vessel or solid mass source of light emanation cannot be found. Some encounters involve the appearance of such light form activity, which, when manifests into a solid mass vessel sighting or an odd experiential journey on the part of the witness. These light form sightings are much easier to discount as insignificant as they breach the boundaries between the seen and unseen, the physical and ethereal, the real and unreal. There are many more accounts of such encounters than you realize, but most often they go unreported or easily discounted by scientific and governmental communities. Witnesses themselves frequently discount their own perceptions as quirks of vision or imagination. Though some light form activity can be explained in terrestrial terms as naturally occurring or psychological phenomena, many of these encounters are not so easily explained, and we would like to shed some light on that subject for you. Previously, we described the type of UFO in the solid matter category that was in actuality a manifestation created through the interface of your system with a parallel or adjacent dimensional world. Some being actual vessels and others only appearing as such as they pass through your system's frequency bands. Not all of these interdimensional phenomena appear as solid objects when they are within the electromagnetic patterns of your world. More often than not, light flashes, forms, pulsations, and movements will be the indication that an interdimensional interface has occurred. Again, as with the solid object sightings, not all of these represent the intentional visitation by some intelligent force. Many are simply part of the mechanics of physics as they operate within the multidimensional reality system such as your own. Physics, your scientists are just beginning to discover and are far more comprehending. However, just because some of the interdimensional manifestations are not purposefully directed by sentient life forms does not mean that all of them are accidental and intrinsic to the natural laws. Some such interdimensional phenomena are indeed directed purposefully by intelligent beings from other systems, both of human and non-human origins. I want to just take a quick side note for you guys. If you are familiar with the Jehovian Seals, the Eye of Metatron, the Beast Machine technologies, um, basically any of the influences that have been directing pulsations, frequencies, or energies to the Earth grids, and even causing reversals in the Earth grids, creating wormholes, trying to pull us through a trajectory into these parallel systems. I'm hoping this gives you a little bit of a deeper physics understanding of what we're talking about, because a lot of times it can just sound like this wild and crazy sci-fi, but it's not. And if you really do a lot of research, there's one body of work I've mentioned a few times, and it is the Transylvania Sunrise. It's from Radu, R-A-D-U, Cinemar, and Peter Moon, I believe, is the one that really helped translate it into English for us because it was originally in Romanian. But they actually have in some of those books some incredible descriptions of moving in and out of these time portals and how they work, and where even some of them have been located on the Earth and on the planet. There is another book, and I'm going to probably get her name completely wrong. It's not Elizabeth Prophet Clare, but it's like Elizabeth Clare or something. She had encounters with an Alpha Centaurian, and that book also gives wonderful scientific descriptions. They came from another world or something, and I apologize. If I find it, I'll put it in the description. But that particular book, even though it's kind of a love story, primarily is a scientific discourse on the physics of this nature and how other systems and other races have to enter in, and the danger of it when they enter in, because the electromagnetic spectra or fields here are different than their craft are used to from within their fields or their systems or where they're from. And kind of the kind of the dangers involved with some of this intergalactic travel. So I'm going to invite you guys to kind of really look at this, that when stuff kind of appears and then unappears, when we see kind of sometimes the cities in the sky, or sometimes there's the visual of that second sun in the sky that people will see, oh, there's another sun in the sky. Sometimes these are going to be our ability to kind of start to see through some of these phenomena. Okay. So continuing on, again, as with the solid object sightings, not all of these represent an intentional visitation. Okay, so it's just saying this again and coming, we were down here at the bottom, that a lot of times they are directed purposefully by intelligent beings from other systems, both of human and non-human origins. Some of these manifestations involve the interdimensional time portal system directly and allow humans in other dimensional worlds or time-space coordinates to interact with and study our system. In these cases, your UFOs are actually human earthlings, but they have their home in a dimension closely adjacent to your own. Some would be from your past, some from your future, and some from alternate presents. But not all such visitations would be from those in human forms. Extraterrestrial visitation. There are other highly intelligent non-human species residing in your universe. For your comfort, we suggest that you get used to this idea as soon as possible. Of the light formation sightings we mentioned, most do not fall into the two groupings we have discussed. Most are not accidental dimensional interface phenomena or natural atmospheric anomalies, nor are they intentional interdimensional probes set by sentient life from other dimensions. Though some light formation sightings do fall in these categories, most fall into a third category, a category you might loosely call alien visitation. In choosing this term, we are implying that most of the light formation sightings witnessed in your times are the direct result of extraterrestrial involvement with your planet. Within your own universal structure, in your three-dimensional band, there exists an enormous variety of sentient, intelligent life. Your scientists will find much evidence of these cultures until they break the primary codes. Oh, sorry. Your scientists will not find much evidence of these cultures until they break the primary codes of your three-dimensional time structure. There are time zones within your universe, as well as multiple dimensions of those time zones. Though the mechanics of those two systems are intertwined, they represent two separate areas of study. The time portal system, as we call it, involves a system of interlocking passageways that keep in motion a set of locks or gates between time elements in your linear time structure within your three-dimensional frequency band. The dimensional lock system differs from the time portal system in that its mechanics operate and maintain the dimensions and frequency bands themselves, linking multidimensional universes, not just time zones within the same universe dimension. Now, one of the things is just to remember, as above, so below. As above, so below. If you know the anatomy of your Cathara body, there are locks and gates within your own body that are between your hova bodies or your horizontal bodies. So your ego identity is separate from your soul identity, is separate from your oversoul identity, is separate from your avatar identity until you learn how to unlock those seals and gates and begin to open your channel of communication through those different stations of identity. And you could almost think of it as if you were to look at our 15-dimensional time matrix as a big cosmic clock. This is not very far off from what it is, and this is why there is a significance to the astrology that we look at within the astrological wheel, because it represents a very small cog in a much larger operations that are wheels of clocks that go from our solar system astrological clocks to galactic astrological clocks to universal and interdimensional, as it's saying here. So when we start to get to understand these, this is why ascension cycles are so important. It's because it's when there's perfected alignments and the cogs in the wheels or the turning of these locks and gates are aligning in such a way that consciousness can begin to move through them. The blend, the ability to go from one space to another, if you will, one zone to another. So I wanted to kind of reiterate that because I know a lot of you are actually very aware of some of those more advanced mechanics. And so this is just kind of tying this in for you to kind of understand how do we move through them. So now let's start to get into the visitors. So the visitors, I love this. Let's have some fun here. In terms of your alien visitors or extraterrestrials, we are referring specifically to those visitors who approach your reality from within the time portal system. That is, they are not interdimensional so much as they are intertime, emanating from different time coordinates within your three-dimensional interstellar system. So most of your light form UFOs are indeed extraterrestrial intelligence interacting directly with you. There are 7 cultures, world cultures, and their various subcultures within your three-dimensional time portal system who possess the knowledge and technology necessary to interact with Earth in such a way. 2 of these cultures are primarily responsible for all such visitations, light formation, solid mass, and crop circle events. The remaining 5 are not involved with your planet or galactic system. Of these 2 world cultures, one group is more advanced than the other in terms of brotherhood. So now we're going to just start to go through who are some of these races. So just saying hello to all of you guys. So much love to all of you on the chat. I am so excited to get to be here today with you. Woo! I feel the energy flowing. So let's start with the Zeta Reticuli. We know that this is a placement. If you do starseed charts, a lot of times you'll actually see the Zeta Reticuli pop up as an alignment. And I know it scares a lot of people sometimes if they see that on their chart. Please don't, don't be scared. There's actually many different types, so let's go into that. One group, Zeta Reticuli, one group has presently been identified in your culture and within the inner circles of those who investigate such visitations. And this group has become known as the Little Grays or the Zeta Reticuli. There's a little picture of them. Others call them the Lizzies, referring specifically to the Reptilia subspecies of Zeta that have a more reptilian-like appearance when manifesting within your system. Though technologically and intellectually astute, the Zeta generally do not possess the spiritual development necessary to forge strong bonds of brotherhood with other life forms. Like humans, the Zeta are also evolving. The Zeta are indeed real and physical in terms of biological form. They are not from your planetary system, but they have a working knowledge of the time portal system in your dimension. It is the Zeta and affiliated groups such as reptilian Dracos that have been in contact with your government and are responsible for much of what you have come to call the UFO alien abduction phenomenon. Little Grays. The Zeta represent more than just the little grays, those small grayish beings with large black eyes. There are various subspecies of the Zeta prototype, some more hybrid-like in appearance, some resembling other forms not at all organic to your system. There are lizard-like Zeta in numerous colorings and sizes. There are Zeta that are more closely resembling your insect kingdoms, particularly that of the arachnid spider-like, though somewhat larger than your earthly versions. Just a quick pause for those of you that are aware or have done much with the arthropods and the stellar nations. We've been talking about the insectoid race lines and how they're kind of involved with the earth plane. So we're hearing it here in this material that they do have these insectoid-like forms, and they're one of the most involved, and they're not that involved in as far as being able to connect with other races, But I want to take one side note on here just so that you can see this when you're listening to some of these other things. The government itself is very aware of multiple races, and there's a lot of documentation now coming out to the different races that they are aware of. And if you watch any of Linda Moulton Howe's videos, many times she has two particular maps of our intergalactic neighborhood, or our neighborhood, as she puts it on there. And within there, it shows multiple different places, but especially from Eridanus, there is something known as the Tarantuloid race line of beings. And this is one of the race line of beings that is the most involved with especially even the politics and the different things that are going on our planetary body right now. And these particular beings have the ability to shape shift. And this is something we're going to have to learn to get more comfortable with, because a lot of these beings have the ability to manipulate the physics of this reality and to take on different appearances. And they many times will actually make themselves look a lot like the Nordic races. So you got to be careful, always. I invite people to always ask, whenever you encounter anything, show me your true form, show me your true form, show me your true form. But I want to highlight this because she's going to go into describing some of the insectoid races. We do know that there's a lot of positive insectoid races, like the ant people, like the bee people from Venus, and many of the Aethian or mantis race lines that actually are far more of the Christic race lines, working with the Yanas or the Brunel races. Now, when we look at this, knowing that there has been sub-races of some of these beings, so I want you just to kind of hold that in mind as you kind of listen to some of this material here. So there are some, again, that are lizard-like zetas in numerous colorings and sizes, but there are some that more closely resemble your insect kingdoms, particularly that of the arachnid, spider-like, though somewhat larger than your earthly versions. Other types of zeta have been described by your witness as blues, browns, silvers, all of which possess some human-like or dwarf-like characteristics, and who represent a group of zeta mutations created through their experiments in genetic engineering. The blue-skinned Zephylim are the administrator caste of the Zeta, governing all lower-ranking Zeta castes. The Zeta are a fragmented species, and their customs and policies differed widely among their own various groups. Okay, so anytime you know that there is a species still running on a caste system, please just put your discernment shields up, okay? We will just start to kind of look at it that way. So now, let's go ahead and look at the Aethian. Now, the Aethian is very much connected to the gold ray. And this is going to be one of the founder races if you look at it through some of the other materials. The Aethian, often seen appearing with the Zeta, especially with the grays, the browns, and the blues, are the tall skeletal-like beings that upon closer inspection resemble in structure your earthly praying mantis insects. These beings are usually whitish or golden in color and can stand up to 12 feet tall. These beings are known in some circles as the Aethian. The Aethian are not of the Zeta species, but often work with them and assist humans in their encounters with the Zeta. They also work with those from other dimensional systems. The Aethian are not organic to your third dimensional frequency band, nor are they from a parallel or adjacent Earth. Rather, they originate from galaxies existing within the dimensions of adjacent Earths, which places them in our interdimensional extraterrestrial category. Aethian work with humans and other sentient life forms, both in your dimension and in others, and throughout the time portal systems of these dimensions. They represent a species superior to that of the Zeta and come as emissaries of peace and growth towards brotherhood for all species. I do want to say some of the terms that we think of as the Aethian are the Ontarians, these mantis race lines and beings. And I'm going to just kind of see what she says in here. And if she doesn't talk about kind of how some of them seem like they're working on negative agendas, we'll look at that. The Aethian always work as teachers. When they appear with the Zeta or other three-dimensional extraterrestrial groups, the Aethian are with them, but not of them. Only Zeta groups who have agreed to work in brotherhood with all life will be accompanied by the Aethian. At this point in your species evolution, you need to begin to understand how vast your playing field of three-dimensional reality and what other players are alive within this drama. We are not trying to frighten you with this information, but rather we are hoping to give you the framework of intelligence needed for you to understand your reality and to cope with it effectively. The Zeta groups come to you they come to you for numerous reasons, some of them to benefit humankind, the more spiritually advanced groups, and others to study you for their own purposes. These are mostly responsible for your reports of negative or harmful alien encounters. Both groups possess technology and operational knowledge of reality systems far superior to that of the human race at this time. They understand multidimensionality to a large degree and are avid users of the time portal systems of the third dimension. Their sciences are built upon this knowledge, and thus there is much humankind could learn from the Zeta. The Zeta possesses physically solid three-dimensional vessels, but only the smallest ones have ever approached Earth's atmosphere. However, as they know the mechanics of the time portal system, they are able to place their vessels just outside of the frequency bands that constitute your third-dimensional system. They are able to establish holding patterns between dimensions and thus can become invisible to your system at will. The Zeta also have the ability to use the dimensional lock system to some degree and are able to appear in some of the adjacent dimensions. But the Zeta originate from your three-dimensional system in a different time continuum than your own present reality. Though possessing knowledge far superior to your own, the Zeta do not have a full understanding of the dimensional lock system, nor have they mastered the time portal systems of adjacent dimensions. Both humans and the Zeta have much to learn. So I do want to take just one pause in here, just because I've had personal experiences with the Aethian in this lifetime, even before I even knew any of these materials, and um, memories of them as a child. I've had encounters with a very beautiful white one and a very beautiful blue one before, and I've asked before, even to connect with some of the ones that might seem like they're working for negative types of experimentation or research or things like this. And it's very interesting when you tap into them. They're never emotionally involved with the agendas that are going on. It's almost as though they're existing outside of this time and space. And many of the ways that I like to describe the Aethian or the Mantis beings is they are like the electrician or the light weavers of the multiverse. It's like they have the understanding of actually all the light filaments in the webs of interconnectivity between galaxies and interdimensions and time portals and all of these things. And whenever organic systems become out of alignment, they are some of the most advanced of the race lines that actually assists a lot of the guardian forces in kind of, that's again the electricians of the universe, of resetting up the correct channels and light fields. So as with any species, just kind of knowing, you just always want to ask again, show me your true form, show me your true form, show me your true form. Are you in alignment with the Christ? Are you in alignment with God's source? So you can begin to really discern if you ever do have contact with any of these beings. The Ranthia. This one's a very interesting race line. The Ranthia, the second group of extraterrestrial cultures from your three-dimensional system presently working with you, are those whom we call the Ranthikia, or Ranthikana. Maybe I didn't say it. Ranthikana. Some refer to them as the Ranthia. They are from the distant stars in terms of your universe, but they have full mastery over the time portal system. They are responsible in part for many of your crop circles. The Ranthia are more advanced technologically and spiritually than are the Zetas and have been involved in your Earth's culture since its beginnings. They have been your guardians in many ways and have helped protect your species and planet from interference both multidimensionally and galactically. The Ranthia also possess the ability to park between dimensional frequencies so as to appear invisible to your world. Like the Zeta, the Ranthia often appear in your system as light formations, especially those that manifest in spherical form. Unlike the Zeta, however, the Ranthia are not fully matter-based, biologically speaking. They possess the ability to manifest in physical form within numerous dimensions when desired, but they are not confined to a reality with matter densities as strident as your own. They are masters of hologram, as are the Zeta, but the Ranthia have superior abilities in this regard. The physicality of the Ranthia could be compared to what in your system appears as water. That is, their organic form has the properties of fluidity you associate with the element of water. They can take on many forms because of this fluidity of form, yet they are a conscious, sentient, intelligent race of beings. Many of the visitors presently involved with Earth, both interdimensional and those of the time portal system, have the ability to bend the laws of physicality as you know them. Many of them are shapeshifters and can modulate the dimensional frequencies in time portals sufficiently so as to manifest to you in whatever form they desire. The Zeta and Aethian they both use this ability quite often in dealing with humans, taking on animal forms, human forms, or those of solid objects. Zeta are the least skilled in this area as they lack certain bioenergetic characteristics, meaning they lack the emotional body energies that are required to fully master the art of transmutation. They can link forms and partially transmute, but to do so causes excessive drain upon their own biological systems. Most often, the Zeta will remain physical and use simple frequency modulation tactics to scramble the brainwave patterns of those viewing them. They are there, but they can interfere with the human's bioelectrical system sufficiently enough to make themselves appear invisible or ghost-like or disguise themselves in other forms. We will discuss this perceptual interruption tactic in greater detail within the pages to come. The Old Zeta Agenda. I just want to do one last tie-in for you guys. For those of you that have a love of the Hathors or an understanding of the Hathors and their time portal mechanic, gifts, and capabilities, if you read the Voyagers 2 book, there's a very small place within there that it talks about the creation of this race line of beings coming as a hybridization from excuse me, the Aethian race line and Altair, basically created through some of the cedar races lines there. So holding some of that mantis kind of gift and capability, what it is, it's portal mechanics mastery, sound tones, using sound tones to open portals that you don't have to find one that's already there. You actually know the creation mechanics for organically creating one and so on and so forth. So just to kind of tie that energy in, if you have a connection to Sekhmet, the Hathors, or any of these energies, there is a high probability you do have some connection to these Aethian, which are gold ray race lines. The Old Zeta Agenda. There are a large number of Zeta involved with research upon your planet, and some of them possess agendas you need to become aware of so you do not fall into their plans as they desire. Your interior government has been working with the Zeta on some of these agendas, but even they do not realize what is being orchestrated. The interior government itself is being tricked and used manipulatively into facilitating the Zeta plan. The Zeta Agenda, as we call it, does not simply involve your dimensional system alone. As we have explained, the Zeta have limited access to interdimensional passageways. Your three-dimensional Earth system is not the only system that the Zetas are interested in exploring. The Zeta are a driven race, driven by a vision and a purpose which stem from their home planet. This planet's name is insignificant to you as its location cannot be charted within your time-space continuum using the mechanics you presently have available. On their home planet, the Zeta evolved within their own time continuum to a point of technological sophistication superior to your own. Their cultures were not originally structured like human culture, as they possessed a more centralized community model. They did not think independently for centuries of their own evolution, but operated as individual units of collective mind. The Zeta mind was exploring methods by which they could break through the dimensional lock system, hoping to expand their reality and knowledge by consuming or draining energy from parallel and adjacent versions of their own planet and combining these reality fields with their own. They had mastered the three-dimensional time portal system and wanted to expand their territory. They did not realize, however, that using the methods they employed would destabilize the time portals and dimensional bands of their own system. They were partially successful in blending dimensions in their world, but they did not realize the consequence of these actions until it was too late. Dimensional blends. I want to just highlight that. It's saying blending dimensions and how it causes, we're going to see how it's caused problems for them. The dimensional blend is actually what the phantom system through the wormholes has been attempting to do to Earth, is to blend the dimensions into pulling us into their time dimension. Okay, but what it does is it creates mutations and it starts to collapse the organic system because it deteriorates the organic locks and gates that hold the clockwork of the universe in place, if you will. So right here, they're saying they did not realize the consequence of these actions until it was too late. The Zeta did not originally possess the small grain forms you have come to know. This form resulted from a mutation in their genetic code caused by the frequency blending to which they had subjected themselves. This mutation intensified over numerous generations, and the form began weakening, losing strength and agility, losing power, until the time came when they could no longer tolerate the atmospheric conditions of the planetary home for which they had been intended. The original Zeta prototype was a larger white colored being possessing bilateral symmetry and having certain characteristics resembling those of the early human, but with a greater number of appendages. The wide variety of Zeta forms now existing are the result of uncountable genetic experiments. There are many similarities between your Earth reptiles and the original Zeta form, particularly those of the early reptiles that roam the Earth. As each successive generation paired, they progressively lost the ability to naturally procreate their species. They became genetically neutered. The dimensional merger that they had forced also caused irreparable damage to their planetary structure, and they had set into motion the death of their planet and its dimensional counterparts. These events, from the perspective of your time continuum, are occurring in what you would perceive as your future. The Zeta then have gone back in time. We are the past, right? The Zeta then have gone back in time to your time continuum and others in hope to finding answers and solutions to their dilemma. Part of their own time portal system collapsed because of these events, so they are unable to access their own portals directly. They cannot thus access the past of their planet before the destruction as they had originally hoped. The Zeta encountered your time continuum because of the proximity of Earth's time portals to their own, and also because the Earth has certain environmental elements the Zeta need for survival. Oxygen-based air systems, water systems, and the presence of elements such as zinc, plutonium, and iron-based materials. However, the carbons in your environment proved to be toxic to the Zetas, and those interacting with your system found themselves in accelerated states of deterioration. the original Zeta Agenda, and the World Wars. We have given you information about the Zetas so that you may begin to understand their motives for involvement with you. Their original purpose involved accessing other dimensional versions of their planet and time continuum by going through your time portals as they had destroyed their own. If they could move through the dimensional portals of Earth and on into a parallel system, then access their own past planet and time continuum from there, they hope to reconstruct the pathways to their own three-dimensional time continuum in order to reattach their three-dimensional zone to the interdimensional grid. They had not planned to interact with you for any period of time. Their plan was good in theory, but not in application, as the Zetas soon discovered. Though they possessed much knowledge of how the time portals worked in a three-dimensional system, they did not have such mastery over the time portals in other dimensional systems. Large groups of Zetas became trapped between the dimensions and stuck in your own time-space continuum. They leaped into your system from the third dimension, moving backwards in time. They accessed certain other versions of your continuum, but were unable to leap from there into their own or other dimensional time continuums. The Zeta were a dying race trapped in time very far from home. The Zeta began to look for other alternatives. They became involved with experimentation in your Earth dimension and in some others. Meanwhile, the health of the Zetas was suffering. The carbon-based elements present to some degree in all of the Earth's dimensions was rapidly declining their species. On your planet, the scope of the Zeta involvement accelerated just after your First World War. The environment was being speculated at this time. Attempts were being made at raising the Zeta's biological tolerance level to the carbon elements that these experiments were met. But these experiments were met with little success. By the time of your Second World War, the Zeta had devised a plan of genetic crossbreeding. They became interested and created a Zeta-human hybrid, a mutation, in hopes that such a form would allow the continuation of their species within the three-dimensional Earth and adjacent systems. At first, other life forms were studied: cattle, rodents, lizards, birds, etc., other Earth species, but these experiments were not successful and produced a variety of sorry creatures that the Zeta later destroyed. Finally, the human species was approached as a last resort. There would obviously be more difficulty with experimentation involving humans directly. For a period of time, corpses were used for these experiments as they attempted to link the human DNA with that of the Zeta. These experiments also failed. During your Second World War, the Zeta came into communications with humans directly. They are in part responsible for the final activation stages of the atomic bomb. You must recall we explained that the Zeta were capable of shape-shifting to some degree, and they specialized in an art of perceptual interference, being able to alter human perceptual frequency enough to appear in whatever forms they choose. Using these tactics to establish contact and to infiltrate the human governmental systems, agreements were formed between the Zeta and the US, the British, the German governments. The Zeta were not particularly concerned at that time with the outcome of World War II. They sold out to the highest bidder, so to speak. The Zeta had great interest in the Nazi experimentation with genetics and were supportive of their agenda of creating a superior race. The Zeta would let the humans help them create a genetically superior human prototype, which they would then use to create the Zeta-human hybrid. Zeta interest in the Hitler regime began to dwindle over disagreements concerning the Nazis' anti-Semitic policy. Like the Nazis, the Zeta viewed the Jewish peoples as a race, not simply a religious grouping. But unlike the Nazis, the Zeta believed the Jewish race to be superior genetically, and they were not interested in a human prototype that did not carry the coding particular to the Jewish race. Moreover, more will be given on the Zeta perspective of the Jewish peoples within the writings. And I know this is a very sensitive topic. It's still very recent in our history, but we are very open in our platform and how we continuously remind each other that all acts against humanity from these visiting race lines. And this even goes all the way back, much further back than this book is talking about. So we're really kind of coming in pretty early in the 20s and the 30s with this book. But Voyagers 2, we start to go back 22,000 years, 5 million years, to really look at the different targetings. And these targetings always have to do with basically alien races kind of fighting against each other for genetic superiority. So it's never religious wars. It's always a war to either support a particular bloodline or to wipe out a particular bloodline. This is just kind of their, their MO, the way they kind of look at the human race line. They don't see us all as equals. They're actually looking at us almost on a holographic to the genetics, down to our DNA, down to the blood that we're flowing, and our family tree bloodlines through the tribes. Where do they go? Who has more what? For those of you that are Rh negative, that are aware of some of the higher targeting of Rh negative bloodlines, this is what this is. It's always about these genetics because it's about perpetuation of races in systems, bodies that can survive in systems and not die off. And to, in many ways, to become superior. They love that idea of becoming superior too. So continuing on, in here, so please, with so much love, as you hear this, that we can put a lot of love towards what has happened here on Earth. So the Zeta believed the Jewish race to be superior genetically, and they were not interested in the human prototype that did not carry the coding particular to the Jewish race. More will be given on the Zeta perspective of the Jewish people in other writings. The Zeta interest then began gravitating towards the opposing factions. They were beginning to take interest in the outcome of the war, as they had a vested interest in keeping those of Jewish lineage alive and well. The Zeta wanted this genetic strain protected at all costs, so they began negotiations with the Allied governments. Around this time, the aforementioned Aethian, the mantis-like beings from a universe within a parallel dimension, began interacting with the Zeta in other dimensions, with the intention of teaching the Zeta better ways to fulfill their purpose without violating the human populace. The Zeta remaining in the three-dimensional Earth system were of the last to accept guardianship from the Aethian, but the Aethian are committed to assisting the Zeta in their spiritual growth toward brotherhood, and so maintain an open invitation for assistance to Zeta in all dimensions. During the time of World War II, the Zeta in your system approached certain elements of government in the Allied forces using the guise of the human form. Remember, they were adept at perceptual interference, and so were able to place themselves in key positions to be heard when new ideas were most needed by the Allies. The Zetas themselves set in motion the structures for what has become your global covert interior government. Using their human guise, they were able to offer certain strategic and technological advancements to top military groups. They also began preparing the humans for direct contact with the Zeta in their true forms. Great meetings were orchestrated in which the human covert elite were introduced to the Zeta and certain aspects of their technology. The Zeta came under the guise of wanting to help humanity and to be concerned with world peace. They used their advanced technology and knowledge of the universal physics to seduce their human cohorts into believing they were far superior to humans, and came as angels or planetary guardians. The Zeta played upon the core religious beliefs of the people and their fears to create the illusion of themselves as saviors, so as to foster human dependence, a covert method of gaining human cooperation with their own agenda. Much effort was put into building human perception of Zetas as saviors and helpers. Only later, after the debt involving the outcome of World War II was incurred, so to speak, did the Zeta begin to demonstrate their desire to have favors exchanged for their services during wartime. Military, medical, and communications knowledge was given to the Allies during this time. The humans, easily enthralled by the sophistication of the Zeta technology, had no idea how much knowledge the Zetas withheld from them, nor how the knowledge that was given was used to direct and manipulate the humans for the Zetas' purposes. The individuals presently involved in the interior government still have no idea of the degree to which they have been and are being manipulated. To those of you involved in these covert activities, you know who you are. We suggest that you wake up now, take charge of your destiny, and break free before the choice is no longer available to you. The Zeta are not evil monsters out to get humanity. They are simply a species trying to solve their problems. But so much like humans, the Zetas often do not realize the harm and violation they bring to other life forms in their quest for growth. Both humans and Zeta need to evolve spiritually into a working knowledge of universal brotherhood. So let's do just a little bit more here. The Old Zeta Agenda and personal growth. Currently, your visible world government leaders know very little about the workings of the interior government. Most know of its existence, but they have been misinformed and misdirected, so they will not receive adequate information about the true operations of this community. The individuals who do have direct knowledge of the covert group have agreed to perpetuate the debunking activities set in motion by the covert group at the Zeta's insistence and hope that they will be let in on the secrets. The interior government has proposed to certain individuals within the official government that great advances in power, economic strategies, and healing modalities will be given at an appropriate time if these officials will cooperate with them now. These individuals in the official government are led to believe that the interior government and the Zeta are working with them and for them, when in truth the plan has been since its beginning to undermine and take control of the official positions when the appropriate mass control devices have been set in motion. All of this might sound a bit far-fetched to you, but this is only because you've been brainwashed for so long. I think we can say this does not sound very far-fetched for us right now. And I even wanted to say, you guys, please keep in mind, this book came out about 26 years ago. um, so right now, as we get to read it still again, nearly 30 years later, are we taking heed of this message? Are we really ready to do, as that phrase says, wake up now? And recognize how ingrained all of this is within the governments, within secret types of things, and the undermining that is going on. And how are we going to, through our own discernment and really just kind of in our own knowing of this information, going to be able to be that energy that starts to help to shift all of this manipulation that's been going on. And one thing I do want to kind of point out, we're going to talk about some other races in here, but it's always important to remember when we talk about the Guardians, who are the Guardians? And there'll be a picture coming up here pretty soon where we get to see the Guardians. There's those that are not helpful, and then those that are the Guardians. Well, the Guardians are working in all kinds of different councils, organizations, dimensional fields, and places. And part of our job is to actually recognize when their actions are put into place on the planet, are we being brainwashed to the point where we don't even recognize it and we go along with the mass media agendas of putting down some of their plans that they're putting in place? Or are we recognizing them with their heart? Remember, all of this is embedded within politics and the governments. So that's where the solutions are also going to start to emanate from. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. They want to just be like, I want to ignore all of that 100%, but it's kind of the playing field for this dimension. So as we go on, yes, we do not think this is far-fetched. Your official governments are not responsible for these activities of the interior government, nor are they working in cooperation with them as they think they are. The official governments are fast becoming puppets to these interior forces and will eventually find themselves at the mercy of them if they do not wake up and wise up and change their public disclosure policies. Your governments presently are ignorant to the reality going on around and within them and will remain so as long as they allow themselves to be blinded by arrogance, elitism, and the quest for power. To the common people, please see these frailties of those to whom you give your power. They are like children playing with dangerous toys. Individuals have the courage to begin asking the right questions. The idea of an interior, and again, one more time, individuals have the courage to begin asking the right questions. This is key. I want to highlight that again. Have the courage to begin asking the right questions. The idea of an interior world government may come as a surprise to many of you because you have been conditioned for centuries into the blind adherence to the dictates of an outside authority. Though at one time this conditioning may have been in the best interest of human development, as your species learn to work within a group collective, this tactic of learning is no longer appropriate to the well-being of the species or to the individuals within the human collective. For it is precisely this conditioning that is being used to manipulate and misguide you. Along with awareness comes responsibility of using that awareness effectively. We have given to you now the gift of awareness concerning these activities taking place within the infrastructure of your own power elite. For many of you, the burden of this gift that you carry may seem too much to bear. After all, we are suggesting that you begin to think for yourselves, to question the very authorities to whom you have turned for guidance and security. We are compelling you to begin looking within yourself to the core of your private being, to begin looking for answers from the whisperings of your heart rather than accepting program responses from the confines of your logical mind. A heavy burden of responsibility indeed for those who have become complacent within the pre-programmed illusion of official reality that has been hand-fed to you through government, media, and religious dogma. We cannot argue you enough to begin looking within. To discover the wisdom and brilliance of your inner self, a portion of your own identities that you have been programmed to discount, negate, and fear. For it is through this disowned self that lives within each of you that your own truth will be discovered. It will be from this place within you that you will be enabled to find your own answers. And those answers may very well put you at odds with the official reality program that you have been fed. Taking the time to look at the beliefs and ideas that constitute your moral, ethical, and perceptual codes will be well worth the investment as then you will gain mastery over the contents of your conscious mind rather than allowing that mind to be directed by the whims of those outside of you, those who may or may not have your best interest at heart. As you temporarily sacrifice the sense of false security and answers given to you by the official program, you may take comfort in knowing that you are gaining the priceless acquisition of self-sovereignty. Through self-sovereignty, true personal security and clear answers will be found. In relation to subjects such as the interior government, ET life, paranormal phenomena, or self-empowerment, you will not find a great deal of support for your interest from the official viewpoint. Indeed, the official program presently in place within your mass reality depends upon the negation of these aspects of human reality. The brainwashing program has been so well orchestrated through your subconscious beliefs that even your friends and family may stand against you when you begin to ask the right questions. They have been taught not to question. They have been programmed to follow the program and to perceive it as a threat, anything that questions the motives or applications of that program. The program. You may be wondering now what we are referring to when we speak of the brainwashing program. So we will provide you a bit more information concerning the official reality program presently operating in your world system. You do not feel brainwashed. You may have been you may be having a difficult time grasping the idea of that you have been brainwashed, and you most likely do not think that there is anything amiss within the ideas and beliefs propagated by your official outside authorities, governments, medical experts, and economic experts, and the defense experts, and the scientific community, and the religious experts, etc. Now, I'd say maybe 26 years ago, yes, there was still, but now I think there's a mass awakening of individuals asking the right questions. The very structure of your daily life seems to depend upon those experts figuring it out for you, telling you how it is and what is right, what is the right thing to do. Though these seeming authorities, you are taught not to think about the bigger picture, about what reality really means and the purpose your existence may hold. You are taught to believe that such questions are unimportant or perhaps unanswerable. You are taught to follow the rules as dictated by the majority, to think as your parents had thought, and they, as their parents, thought before them. This is the program of which we speak, and presently for most of you, it operates on a subconscious level. Where did this program of disempowering an individual or of disempowering the individual originate? Did it emerge accidentally as a quirk of human belief evolution? How did it come to be that this program of ideas now defines reality for you and urges you to never defy reality for yourself? Who has trained you to believe that humans are the only intelligent life forms in the universe? Where did your species get the idea that the only real reality was that which could be defined through your 5 known senses? You have been so trained to believe that this is just the way reality is, and most of you still accept that premise. This is the program. Where do you think these ideas have come from? You may not ever have considered this query, as to ask the question is not part of the program. This program of ideas did not come to you accidentally, nor as a quirk of evolution. And this official program that now serves as a reality filter for you does not give you a clear or accurate picture of how reality really is. Who do you think benefits from you believing that ET life is not reality? Who do you think might benefit from humans being locked into a world of 5 sense perception? Who do you think would most benefit from teaching generations of humans not to question authority or the ideas upheld by authority? Until you begin to open your eyes and realize that extraterrestrials and other dimensional intelligence play a significant role in human evolution and have been involved since the beginnings of your species' time on planet Earth, it will be difficult for you to define who or the intelligence behind and within the program. The Zeta are not the only species of intelligent beings aware of and interacting with the Earth. Extraterrestrial involvement has been a reality since far before your recorded history. Some groups of these visitors worked on behalf of human evolution. Others worked for the exploitation of the race. And now, in your present point of evolution, these factions still exist. Some working towards your enlightenment, others working to enslave your energies for their own purposes. In this section, we have given you the information on some of the covert activities currently taking place within your reality. Though the official reality program you are living within will not assist you in becoming aware of these events, it is primarily orchestrated by those factions interested in exploiting your resources. They depend upon your ignorance and belief to protect their covert agendas. There are other sources of information from which you can draw perspective. But if you cannot pull yourselves out of the program enough to realize the existence of these helpers, there is little we can do to assist you in becoming informed. You are responsible for your own awareness and for the choices you make that will either expand the awareness towards enlightenment or plunge you into the darkness and fear. We highly suggest that you pull yourselves up out of the program and begin, as individuals, to ask the right questions concerning your planet, your government, your experts, and the beliefs that you have accepted regarding the true nature of reality. The information we provide regarding the Zeta and the formation of the interior government is intended to inspire you to ask, who is pulling your strings as individuals. The greater amount of information you have at your disposal, the better able you will be to make informed decisions and wise choices. We are not suggesting an overt rebellion against authority as you know it, but simply the use of a discerning eye when being presented with views by these authorities. In looking within yourself and beginning to explore the portions of your own identity, and knowing that lives within, you will discover alternative perspectives to choose from. You will have more information from which to draw your conclusions, and you will find more questions to ask that the program itself cannot provide answers for. By asking the right questions, you will begin a personal spiritual odyssey that will lead you above and beyond the program into the rightful enlightenment that is your next stage of evolution as a human. You guys, I think I might pause right there, page 87. And that leaves us, actually, no, let's go ahead and read the Ranthia. We'll finish out chapter 1. Because I do this race is very interesting as well. So we're going to complete this chapter now with the Ranthia. Now that we have given you a basic rundown of the Zeta presence and agenda and the official reality program, as it presently operates within your system, let us return to the discussion of UFOs that appear in the form of light manifestations. The Zeta are not the only three-dimensional extraterrestrial forms capable of manifesting in this manner. The Zeta are skilled light manipulators, and the aforementioned group, the Ranthia, have superior ability in using these mechanics. Whereas Zetas usually create manifestations of form in conjunction with light phenomena, the Ranthia regularly make their presence known through light phenomena alone. That is, the Ranthia most often do not create illusions of the three-dimensionality solid forms. The Ranthia also greatly interact with humans during the human dream state and altered states of consciousness. They are aware of the Zeta Agenda, and like other dimensional Aethian, they are attempting to teach humans, Zetas and others, the ideologies and technologies that will help these collectives work towards the peaceful evolution of all concerned. The Ranthia originate from a three-dimensional time coordinate in which the matter density is far less than that of your Earth system. They are highly evolved both technologically and spiritually from a three-dimensional standpoint. They are able to see the far-reaching implications of what is now transpiring within your system. The Ranthia now come to offer their knowledge and assistance and to intervene in the Zeta plan if possible. The Ranthia are also masters of illusion, and they understand the workings of the human bioelectric circuitry and the electromagnetic mechanics of the planet. They will provide information to assist to those who desire to learn. Unlike the Zeta, the Ranthia must be asked to intervene. They cannot impose their assistance or contact upon humans or others without invitation. This is part of their ethical code, which honors the free will of all life, and they will not violate that premise. Not all beings have reached this level of spiritual maturity. Some Zeta groups who have agreed to accept the teachings and guidance from the Aethian are now being led into agreements with the Ranthia. The Ranthia and the Aethian are attempting to shift the Zeta paradigm and agenda to a model more conductive of peaceful evolution by offering enlightenment and alternative solutions. Humans are being put in the precarious positions of having to take charge of their own destiny and learn what is needed to play their part in the working towards enlightened brotherhood. Presently, the masses are ill-prepared to fulfill this leadership role effectively. The Ranthia and Aethian desire to work with humans to educate them and teach them what is necessary for fulfilling their part in this multidimensional, intergalactic, intertime scheme. But it is often quite difficult for these helpers to interact with humans as the present belief structures perpetuated by the official program render their attempts at communication void or suspicious at best. In your culture, little is understood about the nature of interdimensional and intertime communications. The methods by which these events take place are largely misunderstood, and so it is this issue we will address next. What is the method by which such communications come to you, and from whom do these communications emerge? Perfect. So we'll continue on our next read with chapter 2, getting into the good stuff, right? The interaction, the depth of the details about some of the abductions, how they interact with us, how can we interact with the guardian forces, how can we become that spiritual adult as we really work to set things into divine right order back on earth. I hope you guys are enjoying this live read of Voyagers 1, The Sleeping Abductees. And please stay posted. We're going to breeze right through this book, so stay posted. There'll probably be another reading tomorrow, and we're just going to keep rolling right through till we get to the end of this book. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for sharing this, and I'll see